Shalom, sweetest friends. The topic that I'd like to address today is a difficult one for me to talk about, probably because I am a male. But I was asked to say something on the topic, and so here it goes. Today, what I'll be talking about is Tznius. And before you turn it off and think that it's going to be about a bunch of rules and regulations, I think there's an attitude that comes with the mitzvah to be tznius. It's a mandate that comes from a higher place, and I'd like to address what that mandate probably is, and a common misconception that occurs when people enact their tznius, which seems to be a self-contradictory word. You wouldn't need to enact your tznius. The whole purpose of being tznius means to refrain or to be covered up or to not show yourself so much so that something greater can be revealed. But in essence, I guess I want to speak about a form of tzniut that seems to get misunderstood and get misplaced. And a lot of the insight or wisdom behind this comes from Rabbi Manis Friedman, that I follow dearly, and it's meant to really strengthen and affirm the relationships that we have. And so, if, however, you think about tznius is that it has to do with your own image and your own status within a social group or society, I think there's a grave error being made, not only in its adherence, but also in its practice. In other words, your ability to keep those tznius guidelines become harder and harder when they become just about yourself, and additionally, what they end up representing often gets misrepresented because it starts from that mistaken notion. So what am I talking about? If it has to do with your own body image, then very often people will find reasons to say that their image isn't being tarnished by doing a certain thing, whether it be to speak a certain way or to dress a certain way that's different from the conservative norm. They'll say, what do you mean my image isn't being affected differently? People don't perceive me differently. My personality rings forth more than how I dress. I'm dressing this way because I'm comfortable. And so you see that it's a very easy, slippery slope to address your own ideas about tzniut through what they mean to you and what they mean to yourself and your own image. Additionally, if somebody is to be focused on it themselves, in addition to it being easy to lose, because we have a changing perception about what we need and what we want, it also will get enacted in ways that are self-contradictory. So I think the easiest example would be something like a person is covering everything, but they're wearing incredibly tight clothing, and so they're just being revealing anyway. But they feel, I wouldn't say that they're actually following the rules, but they feel that they are following the rules because covered up is what that means to them. Or, for example, again, covered up is all that it means, so when I'm out in society, I can walk in any way I please, or I can portray myself on the internet in any way I please, you know? So you see some girls, they're like very conservative in terms of how they dress, but they will go all over Instagram, make a million selfies, do the opposite of what concealing is meant to do, right? If tznius is supposed to conceal so that something greater can be revealed, so then it would seem that portraying yourself in every fishy face or whatever they're calling it these days, the duck face or something like that, all over Instagram, it wouldn't seem to make much sense embodying the aspect of tznius. But put aside all those examples, because I'm probably really bad at them, so don't take them to heart. I'm not ragging on anybody. They're probably poor examples anyways. But I want to get at the deeper point, and the deeper point is that really what tznius is supposed to do is affirm a relationship that you have. And so again, growing up, I think I've spoken about this before, my school, my education was always focused on the relationship of three things: the relationship of me and Hashem, me and my parents, and me and my spouse, my lover, and such. So when focused on the relationship, what tznius is supposed to do, being tsanua, is supposed to preserve those relationships. It's supposed to indicate that you are a person who walks with Hashem. So however you dress, however you speak, however you act, that should be in a tsanua fashion so that people recognize that you are in a relationship with Hashem. And also that for yourself, for your relationship itself, that with Hashem, it's getting everything it can. There's a notion that some people have, that they have on time and off time with God. God is always on. You are always in a relationship with Hashem. And so it would be a shame if, however you were, had you not be thinking about that relationship. He wants to be in a relationship with you, and you should want to be in one with him. And generally speaking, if one was to not be tznius, they're not necessarily thinking about Hashem in that moment. Additionally, you can say about your parents. So this is very good. I think it's often something that, I don't know if it's a few Beis Yaakov girls, but there's always the argument over the button. The top button. What is this button? Why do I have to button it? You know, like, it's not doing anything. It's not harming anyone. Even if you're going to talk about collarbones, it covers up the collarbone even without the button. Why do you make such a big deal over the button? So very often you might hear someone say back, well, if it's just a stupid button, just button it, throwing the concept of the stupid button back at you. But I think the deeper point is that if you realize that the way you are is someone who has a mother, you are a person who has a mother, and your mother cares for you, and the way that you act pleases her, reflects upon her, solidifies the relationship that you have with her, then you would take more seriously the way in which I think that you act. That's just a thought, that if someone wants to walk around with the slogan, I have a mother, and I have a mother who cares about me, generally speaking, mothers care about the way that their children act in the world. And so when you act properly, you give pride to your mother, you solidify that relationship that you have with your mother. Either parents. Fathers want the same thing too. And additionally, the last thing is your lover, your spouse. And so what happens very often is we want to preserve ourselves for our spouse. We want to make it clear that we are a part of this world. There's a portion of us that is interacting with everyone, especially my face, right? We don't believe in covering up your face. But apart from that, there are parts of you that are reserved just for your spouse. And again, it's not just physical. It has to do with the way that you are, the way that you are comfortable. We all want to be comfortable in society. We should all be very comfortable in society. But there are ways of being that are immodest, and they would reflect badly upon the relationship, not upon your spouse in particular, but the relationship itself. If you see a man or a woman that's acting immodest, it makes everyone question what's going on in their marriage. What's happening? And again, it's not for everyone else. I'm not getting caught up on what everyone else is saying and what everyone else is doing. But even for yourself, if you run around and act immodestly, then it's incumbent upon someone to stop and think about how that's impacting their relationship. And so the model that I hope that we can all take away from this is that Tznius is more than just about myself and what I need. And I tried to explain a little bit about why that would be a weakness in thinking about Tznius, that it's about your status and about how you are perceived by other people. If that's only what it is, then those will be things that will easily be acted upon and changed by you. And so the guidelines don't actually stay in place, because we constantly are evolving. We're constantly changing the way that we perceive ourselves and the way that we perceive others. But the idea of Tznius being something that can solidify one of those three relationships that we're in, any one of those three relationships that are in, I think will strengthen it. I'd like to make just one final point that I should have probably said in the beginning. I think that 99.9% of people will tell you they are being modest. And I think it's a really important point to make. And because I think when somebody wants to have a discussion about modesty with another person, they assume maybe if they are holding at different levels than the one that they're talking to, that someone does or doesn't care about modesty. You should make the assumption that every single person cares about it, and every single person is acting accordingly. So even for a person, I'm just going to give an example, one person might think that it's immodest to wear a bikini at a beach, and another person who's wearing the bikini at the beach, you should never ever think that they are saying, I'm being immodest doing that. They think there's a time and a place in order to be like that. And so when talking to them, don't belittle their intelligence. Don't make them think that you feel like they are choosing to be immodest. No one, I firmly believe this. There are very, very few people in the world that are actively choosing, I want to be immodest in this moment. They just purely believe that in different situations it calls for different types of dress or different types of conduct, different types of verbiage, words to use, whatever it would be. That's generally the attitude of most people on this earth. No one comes and wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to be immodest today. And generally, if a person does think that way, I don't want to label it crazy or insane, but there is something that is deeply disturbing to the individual. They are deeply disturbed by something to wake up with a thought like that in the day. Everyone, I believe, fully wants to be modest in this world, and I think that paying tribute to those that we're in a relationship with will help to focus that thought and that attitude, that character that we all have. We all have the character of Tznius, to be tzanua, to be modest. And I hope that this helps to at least have one another, for each of us to have conversations with those that we care about, with our parents, with our friends, with our spouses, with our children, about this topic. It's really about something greater. It's about the relationship that we share, and not necessarily just about you. Thank you. Have a good day.